Hi, this is the Village Telegram on LoudMouth. There is really no way to quantify the loss and the tragedy of the EndSars protest. And when one looks back, it's hard to imagine that everything that had been lost would probably not amount to anything, because the legitimacy of that protest would probably be lost because of the response of our youths in managing that protest, the lack of preparedness, because I feel they were not prepared for the success that they had as a result of that protest. And that kind of led to a mismanagement of that success. First, they went into the protest without having leaders, and there has never been any movement whatsoever that has achieved anything without having a leader. If a movement, if a project, if an agitation would succeed, it must have a leader. And the lack of having someone to lead, to be seen as the head of the protest, significantly damaged the how far they could go. There's also the issue of not understanding. I think the best way to put it would be this Kenny Rogers great classic, where he said, you've got to know when to hold him, know when to fold him, know when to walk away, know when to run. It's basically saying you should be able to know. They ought to have known when to say, we are suspending this strike, we are suspending this action, we are suspending this protest for the next 1 or 2 weeks. Let's see what government is going to do. Let's see their plan of action based on these demands that we've had. And that was simply, I think that was the greatest undoing of the protest. The greatest undoing, because they chose not to go to the table. I mean, you have a little child that says, Dad, I want candy. And he says, okay, let's go get candy. What kind of candy? He says, I want this and this. Okay, let's go get. Said, no, I want candy. I heard you. You want candy. I'll get you candy. Let's go get the candy. Say, no, I want candy. I mean, that child becomes an irritation. And that was exactly what those kids became. An irritant. Because you want a demand, the public was backing you, and government says, okay, we've acceded to your demand. They disbanded SARS. Of course, errors were made, because you are in a society where leaders naturally are not held to account. Leaders naturally don't give account of their stewardship. And when they now decided to be accountable based on these agitations, and the natural thing was to meet them halfway, because the initial response was not to attack. And the initial response of government was that even had police officers guiding the protest, staying down and protecting the youth. But over time, it becomes overwhelming, because now you've diverted resources protecting protesters. You still have those resources that need to protect the police stations. Those still needs to protect the citizens. So they mismanaged that moment, and I think that sadly that's the main crux of the matter. But because I felt that their response should have been that the moment you have had all those responses and successes, you should have actually worked on gathering your data of people. I mean, you have coordinators across states who would get documents, get testaments, get reports of individuals who have been abused by SARS officers, police activities, and all of that. And you could haul all of those informations and make them available. And I also feel that there was some form of arrogance, and I think it's something that is common within these new generations. They because there's so much information, and that information makes you knowledgeable. It gives you some level of knowledge of issues, but it does not necessarily mean that you have an understanding. Because with the trench of information that keeps coming in, your capacity and ability to process those information is limited, highly limited. And that is one problem with this generation. They have so much information flying out there that they don't process. So the capacity and the ability to think deep is not there. And when the elders who had been in protests, who had faced armies, we're talking about people who were dealing with military era dictatorship, protesting, who had to face live bullets, who when at each protest you see headshots, and those guys are telling you, okay, now is the time to sit down and talk. And they are saying no, and they're saying, listen, we know what we are saying, we've seen these things before. And they keep telling them that what you can't see, they would. And the youth's response was that, don't worry, with drone we'll be able to see more than what you the elders could see. I mean, that was for me the height of arrogance, and that arrogance kind of became their undoing. Because you see, pride always leads to a destructive end. And because of that pride, now we need to now ask ourselves a very pertinent question. Are you stronger now? Is your hand stronger now? Do you still command the kind of attention you had before this protest came to an abrupt end? Because your inability to actually now accept that we have failed is also what is still undoing. Because now, who are you talking to? Who are you liaising with? Perhaps the only state that is taking this EndSars protest serious is Lagos State, with the panel of inquiry that is going on. And of course, Lagos is doing a good job making compensation and all of those things. But Lagos alone cannot transform. This thing is supposed to be a federal thing. So it's supposed to, the cleanup should be from the federal to the states. So and for me, I feel a great moment and been lost, and that a lot still needs to be done if you are going to get that goodwill back. And I hope you get it back. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for listening. You've been on to LoudMouth, a social and political platform. We break down the news headlines to educate and ensure full understanding of daily events. Don't forget to share and subscribe. And finally, make comments. We would like to know your opinions.